Okay, Council, we're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much, Tanya. Good afternoon, colleagues and visitors. I'm going to call this special council meeting to order. We're dealing with a single issue for the special meeting, and that's the Marina Utilization Study. An agenda has been circulated. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest on that one item? Madam Clerk, please note that none was noted. And so we have no minutes, but we do have our deputation. Anand is going to be presenting to us on the utilization study. Welcome. And I think what we'll do is we'll let you go through the presentation, and then I will ask council members to put forward any questions that they may have. So welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. And we have about a 15 or a 20-minute presentation is what my first runs through. So yeah, we're happy to take questions and comments after the fact. I will just share my screen. And while I'm doing that, again, Anand Desai from Monteith Brown, as you know, happy to be here. And joining me today is Todd Brown, Kent McVitie, and Sabrina Mayer from our firm, same staff group that assisted the township last summer as well with the project. And so a lot of familiarity here. So again, thank you very much for having us. So really, the purpose of today is to provide council with an update of research and consultation findings to date, as they have arisen through our work, ongoing work on the Lakefield Marina Utilization Study. Again, as a brief reminder to council that in 2020, the service delivery review for the Parks and Recreation Department did a cursory analysis of the marina operation. And it recommended a few specific actions that are being investigated through this study. In particular, we are evaluating possible ways to improve the marina's operating performance through potential to add docking in Lakefield, reviewing the mix of transient and seasonal boat slips, looking at the range of retail services being offered through the marina, but also to carry out discussions with a number of opinion leaders, including regulatory bodies. As our focus is largely relocated to establishing directions to guide future decision-making, our scope of work does not delve into any kind of engineering or architectural feasibility works, comprehensive organizational reviews, any kind of fee setting, although we will be benchmarking fees, nor are we quantifying any kind of economic impacts through this study. And then the map on the left of the screen generally illustrates the context of the marina, again, situated as part of that important part of your downtown Lakefield waterfront node. In terms of the planning process, it was initiated earlier this spring, with the majority of consultations taking place over the month of June. And that included conversations with yourselves. So again, today we are going to be sharing some of the insights of these research and consultation tasks momentarily. But just again, for council's information, we are on track to present a draft report back to you on August 9th, as well as finalize the study with you at your meeting in September. In terms of trends, so now getting more into the nuts and bolts of the presentation and again, the tasks completed today, our research has uncovered a number of interesting findings. Most notably, the trends are suggesting marinas are becoming communities into themselves. As boaters are spending more time docked, they're forming relationships with others at the marinas, and they're even venturing again out into nearby areas depending on available amenities. So again, becoming part of that broader community as well. In effect, some are using their boats as floating cottages. Now, compounding pressures on the marinas is the fact that there is a strong demand for transient slips. While COVID-19 reduced transient bookings in many marinas with border closures and now the escalating cost of fuel, it will be interesting in the coming months and years to see the degree to which transient demand may rebound. Early indications, again, for your marina, based on conversations with staff this summer, is that the slips are again reverting to kind of pre-COVID types of usage patterns. Now, with marinas becoming these types of communities, again, into themselves, comes an expectation for quality amenities and services on site. So expectations can include quality showers, washrooms. Again, you've renovated your marina building in the last couple of years to improve those amenities. But again, the marina users are also looking at more comfort elements, open spaces, seating, as well as sufficient electrical servicing, given that there are some bigger and more sophisticated boats becoming commonplace. A younger age among boaters is also being seen nationally, which is prompting, along with other societal expectations around technology and use of technology, including strong Wi-Fi connections to remain connected, as well as customer service tools such as online and app-based bookings. In terms of the community engagement, to date, the study has involved the creation of a public portal on the township's website to spread information and promote opportunities to participate through the questionnaires and written submissions. To date, again, we have received 90 questionnaires from the public and 30 questionnaires specifically from Lakefield Marina boaters, which we'll discuss in a moment. In line with the terms of reference, we have engaged the Trans-Severin Waterway and Autonomy Region Conservation Authority in initial conversations, while also holding workshops with members of the Parks and Recreation, Trails, and Economic Development and Business Committees. A workshop specifically with marina staff helped us gain certain operational insights into how the marina is currently being run. And of course, the conversations with each of you were invaluable to our understanding. For the consultations, there was much insight that was contributed to us by folks participating in the study that can generally be distilled into a few key and notable points. First, the value that the people place on the marina as being a key public space to access the water, whether as a boater or somebody just standing near the water's edge, really in the eyes of many makes this a true gem for people living in and visiting your community. We heard that the public is also looking for more and easier ways to access the water, particularly for non-motorized forms of boating and paddling. Similarly, boaters and the general public are both seeking amenities regarding comfort, food, and beverage, but also expressing there is a balance between enhancing the waterfront experience and creating positive spin-offs for area businesses. Building on the point of economic development, the marina is viewed as by certain people as being an entry point to the township of Selwyn for boaters, but also as a destination for residents and visitors wanting to access the water. And thus more information and signage at the marina was viewed by certain individuals as a way to raise awareness of what exists locally and to connect the marina and downtown users. The next slides will just further explain some of the findings from the two questionnaires. Of the community questionnaires, 90 responses, most of whom were submitted by Selwyn residents. This revealed a number of insights. At least half of responses, as you'll see on the left, graph on the left, were submitted by people that have either used paddlecraft or motorized watercraft. But as we look to the graph on the right as well, a very large percentage of people that are using the marina to view the waterfront or enjoy the marina grounds. Again, a common theme is ice cream, is what we heard through the consultations. Many people enjoyed the fact that they can get an ice cream at the marina to complement their waterfront experience. So on the right, the chart articulates improvements that people reported as being important to them, with 40% wanting an expanded range of food and beverages. Although not at the same rate, people also suggested improvements to outdoor areas through landscaping, seating, and observation points. The graph on the left shows the willingness or the, agreement to the level of support for additional spending on the Lakefield Marina. And by and large, people generally support doing so, with nearly 70% either somewhat or strongly supporting spending there. Just 10% were opposed to additional spending at the marina. For the boaters questionnaire, boaters that either currently rent slips at the Lakefield Marina or those that have done so in the past were contacted by township staff asking for feedback through this questionnaire that was designed specifically for them. We have heard about the economic benefits provided by the marina, but this has never been quantified formally. And so while this questionnaire cannot be treated as an economic impact analysis by itself, it did show that, again, most of the responding boaters, as we'll see on the graph on the left, most of those boaters either regularly or occasionally visit local grocery stores, liquor stores, restaurants and bars, and hardware stores. Perhaps unsurprisingly, though, is that boaters infrequently or never visit galleries or museums, nor hotels and inns, possibly since they are likely on their boat to enjoy the outdoors, and watercraft for some of these respondents may have space to sleep. As part of their marina experience, responding boaters place the highest level of importance on garbage bins, comfort features such as washrooms and showers, on-site amenities such as pump out services and Wi-Fi, as well as proximity to those community amenities such as parkland and businesses. So again, the results of the questionnaires, the two questionnaires, are reinforcing some of the broader trends and themes that we're seeing province-wide, nationally as well. Part of our scope through this study is to investigate whether the current retail selection at the marina should be adjusted. Now, over half of the responding boaters indicated that the marina sells everything they need. And just 10% would like to see a greater selection of food and snack options, and 14% would like to see a greater selection of boating supplies. The mix of transient and seasonal slips is another important aspect of this study. And so assuming that the marina's current number of slips were to stay the same, 40% of boaters want more seasonal slips to be added by reallocating existing transient slips, while 20% felt that more transient slips should be offered by reducing the number of seasonal slips. About 1 in 4 responding boaters thought the current mix of transient and seasonal slips is acceptable. We also tested support for expanding the total number of slips and how they should be assigned. So over half of the responding boaters support adding more transient and seasonal slips as a collective, while 18% support just adding seasonal slips and 14% support just adding transient slips. Simply for information, we would note to council that the number of questionnaires that we received from transient and seasonal boaters was almost the same. And further, responding boaters were almost evenly split between residents and non-residents. So going on to the state of infrastructure, many of the marina's key elements were built between 20 and 30 years ago, but the township has been monitoring and repairing the building and docks over time. Again, as we mentioned earlier, about 3 years ago, a new roof and fully renovated bathrooms were put in place. Now, while the township will be conducting comprehensive building condition and other asset assessments in the near future, it is probably safe to say that for the docks at least, that a more significant renewal could be required within the next 5 to 10 years, just based on the typical life cycles of these types of facilities. Township staff identified for ourselves 9 marinas located within about 30 kilometers of the Lakefield Marina, through which we have been able to obtain information from 6 to date. While we will continue to follow up with the outstanding marinas, the table on the screen shows that Lakefield Marina, from a fee perspective, is priced competitively for longer term stays and is a little bit more expensive for daily and weekly stays. What this may suggest, and now this is subject to our ongoing assessments, is that there may be room to increase seasonal and monthly rates given the waiting list that exists, again, particularly on the seasonal side. The next few slides will present just a high-level synopsis of the marina's current operating profile. So the township made a strategic decision a few years back to price its slips more competitively. Again, in doing so, the improvement to the operating performance can be seen in the graph to the left, where the bars at the bottom represent the net operating profit. Apart from the COVID lockdown year of 2020, revenues have been near or above 90,000 since 2018, while the operating costs have been trending downwards, partially again due to COVID, but also the fact that your marina is staffed in a very cost-effective manner. Revenues are on the right in terms of the distribution are predominantly associated with slip rentals, while the current retail and concession offerings generate about 1 out of every $10 earned. While we won't spend a lot of time on this slide, really the two graphs are showing that seasonal slips generate half of all marina revenues, but when looking at it over a per slip basis, recognizing that the majority, so 25 of those slips are dedicated to seasonal renters, the transient rentals generate more revenue per slip. Now, transient rentals or slips generate also some slightly higher operating costs due to more frequent maintenance requirements. But again, there may be rationale to adjust the seasonal rates upwards to further improve the marina's fiscal operating position. So the graph on the left, certainly we recognize it's a bit of a messy type of graph, but really what it is intended to speak to is the period of time throughout the marina's operating season during which transient slips are in use. So again, remembering there's 14 transient slips plus some additional slips along the wall. What the graph is showing is that these slips are nearly fully booked between June and the end of August. This reaffirms again provincial, or is in line at least with provincial trends that show that transient docking is still high, but it's also demonstrating that the township could likely fill more transient rentals in peak months if the space was available. What is not shown through this graph on the left is the fact that all 25 seasonal slips are booked 100% of the time over the marina's entire operating season. The graph on the right now is one that is derived from the boater questionnaire. As you will recall from that previous slide, we had inquired about boater spending in the community, but what we did for this chart in particular is differentiate the spending profiles between the seasonal and transient boaters. What it shows is that both transient and seasonal renters regularly or occasionally frequent local grocery stores and liquor stores. And while transient renters are likely to visit restaurants and bars very frequently, seasonals are also likely to do so, albeit more so on an occasional basis. Seasonal renters are also more likely to visit hardware stores, while transient renters are more likely to visit your local clothing and other kind of goods retailers. So the final slides in the deck are really intended to provide an indication of some of the preliminary insights that we feel have emerged out of the research consultation and review of marina operations. Again, while we're not at a point yet in the planning process where we have definitive recommendations for Township Council today, we certainly welcome your thoughts on the points that are presented in the next couple of slides, along with any other ideas that you think are worthy of future consideration based on what you've learned about this planning process thus far. So the first area for exploration would be to expand the number of slips at the marina and other selected properties as a means to alleviate waiting lists, address transient rentals, as well as potentially increase rental revenues. Initial concepts that township staff have prepared show that physical space could exist to add a second T-dock at the marina, which has the ability to provide more slips than the finger docks do. There may also be an opportunity to enlarge the existing T-dock to accommodate both more boats, but prior to confirming that, TSW, so Trans-Severn Waterway approval, would be required as a new T-dock would extend into the channel, and the TSW must determine that such an action does not impede the navigable passage. And again, while water currents would also be another factor to take into account, again, to add or allow for safe docking. Our conversations with the TSW's Realty Unit, who are largely responsible for the approvals, have suggested that, again, their discussions with others in their organization, they would envision their Lakefield workshop lands would continue to remain for storage, given TSW's operational mandate. What they did say, however, though, is potentially additional conversations would be required with their business development unit, who is responsible for land acquisition and development, as well as TSW's upper management to continue exploring access to their wall at the Lakefield yard for public docking. In addition, there are potentially other lands, such as those located along Hague Boulevard, that may be suitable for unserviced docking to alleviate pressures, particularly, again, for those more transient type of rentals. Expanded food services and hours of operation. Clearly, an expanded food and beverage selection is important to waterfront users. In addition to the words ice cream, we often heard the word coffee and latte. But again, that's not to necessarily put a limit on what can be done, but it does, again, speak to the fact that folks are looking for a way to, again, enhance their experience on the boardwalk, along the waterfront, near the downtown Lakefield waterfront corridor. And so while the township has chosen to limit competition with its private restaurants and coffee shops, and we believe that, at least at this time, this philosophy should continue. We do see it potentially, albeit in a different manner, whereby private food and beverage operators could deliver services out of the marina through a lease or contracted operations. And again, with a strong value that the public has placed on the outdoors, there could be potential to animate the open spaces adjacent to the marina building, through the use of food, using whether it's food trucks, pop-up vending tents, food festivals, and then again, just some supporting infrastructure such as tables and seating. People have also expressed that they would love to be able, again, I'll use the ice cream example, based on the current profile, they'd love to be able to get that ice cream later into the evening as they come visit Lakefield for the evening stroll. Expanding the marina's operation has the potential to therefore generate additional revenues, although it's recognized that these would, partially be offset by additional operating costs. But again, having a wider range of customer service, through the concession or others, may also serve to improve the public's overall waterfront experience, may also serve to improve the boaters' experience, should they need those kind of supplies being sold out of the marina building. And then finally, the connection of the marina to the broader community was one of those other key themes that emerged, and is one that we think is worthy of exploration. The Chamber of Commerce interview yielded a willingness on their part to work with the township to better promote downtown Lakefield and other businesses through the marina. As part of overall waterfront improvements, the marina, for example, could incorporate enhanced wayfinding signage and maps, promotional materials to the boaters that would help those marina users and waterfront users navigate nearby amenities. In addition, we think it would be worthwhile, again, from a connection standpoint, to investigate appropriate areas at or near the marina to allow access by paddlecraft. But this could be as simple, I shouldn't say simple, but this could be carried out through looking at how we improve accessibility to the existing canoe launch at Isabel Morris Park, for example. That may make it easier or address that need. So Really, our next steps are to receive questions and questions and comments from council this afternoon. We'll be back in front of you in early August to present the draft study, which will contain those recommendations, potentially building on these areas for exploration and your thoughts today. And then again, we would have a public review and commenting period to allow for that type of feedback before coming back to you in September with a final report. So with that, I will stop the screen share. I will turn the floor back to you, Mr. Mayor, and Todd, Kent, Sabrina, and I are happy to take any questions or comments now.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it. I see that Sherry has her hand up. Go ahead, Sherry.
Thank you very much, Rudy. The current launch for the canoes and kayaks in Isabel Morris Park is scary. I personally would not be able to get into either type of craft from what exists there now. I'd probably end up in the water. And there's a big, huge stone work that has gaps in it that I think is dangerous. So I think we need to look at another way, as you suggested, for launching of canoes and kayaks. I have a question. Did you look at the makeup of the seasonal slips? Are they mostly local people, or are there people from out of town that are that have the seasonal slips now?
Sherry, I don't have that information. I think, Mike might have, or others at the township. I don't know that we have the place of residency of the seasonal users, but we can certainly follow up, as part of that investigation.
Okay, because I think it's important. If there are people that are local, then they may not necessarily be going to our restaurants and such because they live here and will go home and have dinner. And then I wanted to mention this past weekend, we had our jazz festival in Isabel Morris Park, and the people who are voting and on their votes had the ability to enjoy the whole festival without leaving their vote. So I think it's important to go through the process that we're going through to involve the community. It looks like we got a lot of good information. And I think that the marina is a really important cog in the wheel of our economic development. And I look forward to getting the final plan from you. Thank you for all the work you've done.
Thank you,
Thank
Sherry.
you, Sherry.
I've got Anita first and then Donna. And then Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a great report so far. Lots of good information and done your homework really well. Especially what I found really interesting is with regards to the transient versus seasonals and where they spend their money in town. I think it's really important that our staff, when we get to the point of passing this information along to people, that even if Megan could make one of those poster sort of things that she does so well. So with regards to Hague Boulevard, because it's a trail there, so if we were to have more, I guess, unserviced slips, would the parking lot at the campground or at the beach be large enough, and would we have to look into, possibly making that parking lot bigger? Because if we put in more unserviced slips, that really is the only place where people could park. So I'm not sure if that's something that's going to come through in your final report with regards to, parking and the mobility issues to get to unserviced, potential unserviced slips. And then with regards to, you were talking about possibly putting in another T-dock. Would it be a little further downstream, like past the big building at Toth Marine? I know you did say that we'd have to talk to TSW if it was to extend further into the channel. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Mayor, just to, address a couple of those, absolutely, we'll look at the parking. Again, we'll just, there could be a lot of competing uses there, right, with the beach, like you said, the parking, so that is an important element. Ultimately, where we're looking at how we can alleviate the supply, but certainly people that are launching in Lakefield, and whether again it's a transient slip, do they need the same degree of parking as a seasonal user? Those are all things that we'll need to kind of think about. Or again, is it more of those slips allocated more to people that are already just passing through on their boats, and they might have launched at another location? I think that needs to be thought about. But again, one wants to also recognize that, around the beach and just throughout Hague, one might not necessarily want to pave over more of paradise per se to get that parking for boaters. So again, I think it's a good point, and one that needs to be spoken to in the report. So we've acknowledged that comment. With respect to the second T-dock, the concepts originally kind of sketched out by staff thus far show a second T-dock as replacing where the existing finger docks. So you can have more boat slips in a T-dock compared to the fingers. But again, where the fingers are, the way the channel runs between the shoreline and the island, again, that's where TSW needs to weigh in and confirm the suitability of that. But if there are municipal lands, again, downstream, we don't want to kind of be anywhere, close to the water intake to the north, for example. But if we can look a little bit more downstream at other opportunities, whether they're finger docks, T-docks, serviced or unserviced, the point remains, and I think Councillor Locke is that, we should be creative, to see how we can fit additional docks in. So thank you.
Thank you. Donna?
Yes, thank you very much. Through you. Thank you for all your investigation and homework. I find that you have really a lot of good ideas, but there's very few of them that we can say, even 50% that we can do. I think something that we can do for sure is improve the access for non-motorized crafts, even if it is back at Isabel Morris Park where Deputy Mayor Santa spoke. It is like, I'm not really sure why we've left it like that for so long. That definitely needs to be improved, and it might not even be part of the Marina Utilization study. I'm wondering if, getting back to the boat slips along Hague Boulevard, would that mean that these boats would be parked in front of residences?
That would be my understanding, again, recognizing we have that kind of easement where the trail runs through. So it would kind of be between the trail, that public portion. We know that, again, historically there were, or maybe still are, some docks, associated with some of the residences there. But again, as we look strategically along Hague, maybe even, Water Street, maybe there are selected areas along the shoreline, especially those where the municipality has control. Again, back to Councillor Locke's point, parking would have to be kind of investigated there. Again, any kind of conflicts or potential for conflicts need to be better understood. But again, just leveraging or making as good use as possible of the shoreline to alleviate docking is really our intent at this point.
I think we would have a hard time, it would be a hard sell to park boats in front of those residences, even though we do have the easement.
Yeah.
My other thought was, and I did mention it in the interview, is there any possibility of docking boats down the other side of the dam by the Service Ontario and Foodland and the park? Is there any possibility of putting boats along there?
Our conversations, again, with the TSW around the areas that they own at least, and same thing with Orca. Although I don't think Orca owns anything down that way. At least TSW doesn't see a lot of opportunity to use their land. Again, this was the perspective of one person that we talked to, and so maybe not necessarily reflective of upper management there. But that indication was that, really TSW is focused on an operational mandate. And so public access, again, is something that really needs more discussion with them. But again, depending on the ownership situation along those areas, you had mentioned that, Councillor Valentine, around the food land. Again, I think all options should be on the table. It's just we have to have those conversations, and again, more investigation about who owns it, is it an appropriate use there, and does it meaningfully contribute to alleviating the docking supply or pressures on the docking supply in Lakefield.
And I'll just say one more thing. I had other things written, but I'll let other councillors talk. I really think that we should consider expanding what we're offering at the marina itself, and some outdoor sitting area around that marina. Hopefully we have enough room. But I think that's a really good idea, and I think it would be well received and it would be profitable, I'm sure. I'll stop for now at that.
That's great insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna. Jerry.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'm going to be all over the map here, which is par usual for me. I don't know whether the municipality's in the marina business or not. Just because we're a municipality, we're not entrepreneurs. And I mean this with no disrespect to the township and staff that works there, because we're doing all right there. But Lakefield being the economic engine of this town, the only reason it's the economic engine is their entrepreneurs are out there. So the way to help the engine, if you will, to me, is a PPP, and go a public-private partnership, similar to the Silver Bean down in Peterborough at Millennium Park. They lease it out, no different than what we're doing with Orca at the park. We provide the framework. We get an entrepreneur in there who can really drive this thing and help that traffic through. Ideally, that's what I would like to see, is somebody in there with a mocha choke and latte, good morning, skinny drip things, whatever the hell that is, and get in there and service the needs of that clientele. Have the ice cream. Every one of their brothers into ice cream right now. One of those big tubs is $20, so no wonder everybody's into the ice cream, from Shamong Lodge to Great Outdoors to everybody. So I'd like to see a PPP. If that was unattainable, or you couldn't get somebody to do it, like say Cottage Toys would be a perfect fit with a little restaurant in there. And a couple of things I mentioned to Anad and Sabrina during our talk, a golf cart. Why are we running a golf cart around town, shuttling people from the marina? And if you don't have anybody shuttling the marina, you can slap some advertising on it and give them a ride for $2 or a free ride or whatever across town, and let people see the city. Home Hardware, Blue Diamond, whoever, on the back of this thing, to try and expand the reach of that area. And as far as the dockage fees, there's people renting their own docks out on Shamong right now because they don't have any room at the one or the two marinas here. Their own docks, renting out the other half, getting $1,200 a season for this thing just sitting there. So that's, I think the demand is there. However, I will ask you this, Anad, the boon of toys, four-wheelers, snowmobiles, boats, Sea-Doos, when's that trend stop? And I know you don't have a crystal ball, but that's got to slow down. So now, if we put that focus on the transient boater, are we better off to look forward and maybe have it more seasonal slips rather than transient? Although I do like the transient because they're more likely to spend money. So that's something I think we need to think about as well. What the trend going forward is when the novelty wears off. One last comment. the lease or food contract and your areas for future exploration. I don't think it's fair to any restaurant for us to put a pop-up chip truck in there as owners of that property. You either make a permanent venue and make it a level playing field for every single restaurant there, or cafe, however you want to call them. But for us to throw a temporary chip truck in there, I think is a slap in the face for everybody, and I think we get hung for it. And frankly, I think we deserve to get hung for it. As far as the other side of the lake goes, if you move one stone on Hague, you're getting a protest. So there is the opportunity, however, for a water taxi run across back and forth. Again, somebody private may end up doing that. There was one on Little Lake that a friend of mine drove and had the time of his life. So, you know, there's certainly a lot of ideas there. I think, you know, the township has done a good job in developing this thing. But again, are we in the marina business, or are we in the you know, the municipal business? I think that's the question that needs to be asked. Thank you.
Could I follow up, Jerry, Councillor Aaron, in terms of just the comment about the P3? I mean, you referenced the, you know, P3 potential more from a food and concession standpoint. I'm just wondering, you know, does that, in your mind, potentially expand to other areas of the marina operation itself, such as bookings, customer service, you know, like almost like what's the model that you're employing now for the campground? Like, can you just clarify that just a little bit?
Absolutely. It's one-stop shop. So they've got your coffee, that's a cafe, they've got your boating supplies, they do your booking. You just lease this thing out and walk away. No different than having employees. They're out there making your money all day, and you're sitting at home, you know, smoking stogies and golfing, if you will. You know, if you go down to the Great Outdoor Landing down here at the Causeway, you buy your ice cream, but as you look around, there's all the boating supplies, everything that, and all they serve is ice cream. So I don't see it being a bad model to have those key supplies. I mean, you're going to get into a bind, somebody needs something, and, you know, you're just going to have that one little thing that they need or whatever. But I think that there's the opportunities there, and I do believe there's space, especially when you push it outdoors.
Okay. No, thank you for that. And your other comments around just, again, connection. You know, we heard that from the conversation with yourself. I think it reinforced some broader themes, but connecting people to other areas of the downtown in particular are noted. You know, how that, you know, takes form, you know, again, whether it's physical services like a water taxi or golf cart or shuttle, you know, that I suppose is something that could be considered. But I think, again, we're looking fundamentally at what, you know, the point you're raising is more about how do we ensure people that, you know, are at the marina or along the waterfront, you know, how can we better connect them to, you know, what's available in the downtown. And so part of that could be those physical types of services. It could also be more soft set types of services around promotion, wayfinding, signage, that kind of thing. So again, I think those are largely consistent with what we heard through the consultations with the public as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just add, you know, any leasehold improvements, depending on the deal you work with somebody. I mean, nobody's going to commit to a 3 or 4 or 10-year deal right off the bat until they try it. But, you know, you could maybe expand that a little bit, you know, clean it up for them, and somebody move right in there.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And I'm just going to make a few comments, and you may or may not want to respond. So first of all, like my colleagues, to thank you and your team for the work that you've done. I'd also like to thank all of our staff who have been engaged with you to go through this process, and certainly want to thank all of the voters and members of the public who've taken the time to provide input. All of it's important, and it's very much appreciated. The thing I want to say first is the importance of the place. So we tend to think of the place in the middle of July bustling with people and boats. I probably am on that site every day, 365 days a year. There's a beauty in that place in the middle of January as the north wind blows down and the snow sweeps across. It's a different beauty than what you see in July with the boaters, but but it's there, and it really is for all seasons. And so the concept that it is a portal onto the water for the community is an important one, in addition to that which it serves as a marina. And I would never want that to get lost. The Lakefield Marina is intrinsically integrated into the community, and whatever is done there, and I think there are things to be done, that special bond that exists between community and place should be enhanced and not diminished. So that would be an opening comment. Second thing, and Jerry sort of touched on this, whatever we do has to be either within the capacity of a township to do, or we need to be contracting it out to somebody whose business it is and whose expertise it is. Municipalities do certain things really well. Private sector does other things really well, and you're best served when you don't confuse the two. And that's going to be important as we move forward. I think there is some room for additional food service to take place. It could be very passive, where you just provide additional tables and picnic tables for people to buy something uptown and come down and use it. That space to the north of the actual building. There's a grassy area in there that could be used for that. All the way up to considering something like what the city of Peterborough has on its downtown waterfront, where it owns the facility, but it contracts it out to somebody to run a cafe style issue down there, and lots in between. But I think that's something to look at, and that would benefit not just the boaters, but also the community and other land-based visitors to the community who it would add to part of it. I think the concept of way signage into the community is an important project to take place. There are people that are there, and we want to highlight to them what else is in the community for them to use, and I think that would be important to work with whether it's with the chamber or whoever to try to do that. I think that would be important. There is a significant economic development component to our merchants that operate, and we want to enhance that to the greatest extent that we possibly can. And the final thing is again to return to it. It's a popular spot because of what it is, and whatever we do, we can't change what it is. If you know what I mean, we can change how it operates and some of the component parts to it, but there's something very special about that, and I want to make sure that we preserve that. So those are my comments.
I think those are kind of helpful in tying everything that we've heard thus far together, Mr. Mayor, because I think, just like you said, there is an important economic development component to this, but there is kind of a broader kind of set of objectives or outcomes that the marina brings to your community, beyond the economic development side of things, which is important. But again, environmentally, that whole area, people place that value on the outdoors and the ability to access nature. Again, from more of a recreational open space perspective as well, a high degree of value is placed on that site. And so, the comments from council today, appear to be suggesting, just as you've said, kind of in closing, is that, whatever actions we undertake, really we want to have a net benefit occur. We do not, the last thing we want is to diminish, the type of environment and contributions to the broader waterfront that this marina and its adjacent public spaces provide, because they are a key component of your community. I think one other thing, and again, touching on both yours and Jerry's point, is that, there are municipal examples of marina operations. So it's not to say that you are the only municipality that is including this as part of your core service mandate. But again, that doesn't mean that, we don't need to think about the other side. I think, again, as you've said, a lot of it comes back to your core competencies as a municipality. You've been in the marina business a long time. It's not to say, again, things couldn't be improved or changed. There could be elements as you look to improve the overall operating performance that may be best delegated out to other parties. So, I think those are all comments that we're going to now take back after today's meeting. And as we flesh out the assessments a little bit more, certainly refer to some of the feedback that council has expressed today, including, how the marina is contributing to that sense of community. The boaters are feeling part of the community through access to festivals. I think there's a kind of a synergistic relationship there that I think we can build on as we kind of look at a few of those key aspects presented today, along with, again, some of those other ideas that you've raised. So, I think, we're encouraged by what we also heard from the community. And just as you've thanked the community, it's always a pleasure working in your municipality where often there is a very engaged base of residents, stakeholders, a lot of value we took from your advisory committees. So, I echo those same sentiments of thanks to those that have contributed to date. And again, in the August timeframe after this has come back as a draft to you as council, we certainly welcome those same folks and others from the public to let us know their thoughts on the draft study. So thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
So if I understand correctly, and Janice or Angie may want to step in as well, it's your intent to have another draft, one with some recommendations back in the August meeting, or is it in September? I'm just not totally.
Yeah. So today was really to present you with an overview of the research and consultation findings. What we are going to undertake over the next couple of weeks is taking those findings, now that we have your input, and starting to craft some more definitive actions that will be presented in draft format to council on August 9th. So following your receipt of that draft report, we would then go out to the public to also seek their feedback on the draft, and then in September come back to you as Township Council with our final report.
Okay, thanks for outlining the way ahead, Donna.
Yes, through you, thank you. So in August, it's still, the recommendations still will be pending approval by different agencies.
Correct.
So
Yes.
in September, it will have approval. You'll know what we can and can't do.
For certain things. So I think the primary intent of this study, Councillor Ballantyne, through you, Mr. Mayor, is to provide the township with essentially that planning rationale that either supports, or supports the case to either expand or not expand the number of slips, for example, supports the case to expand your retail offerings or food and beverage, or not support that. So because of the timing of this study, council through this report probably isn't going to be asked to, make any kind of capital types of, or approve any kind of capital recommendations, just due to the timing. So really this report is providing the case for future work to be undertaken. So namely the condition assessments that will occur, and that are planned to occur, that will help you as a township support potentially when additional docks should be added or new docks, if that's what emerges out of the report. It would also, again, allow you to undertake, perhaps if you as a council support the idea to contract out food services, for example, maybe then the next point of departure would be to create an RFP. But all of these would probably be undertaken after this study has been received in principle by the township. If Janice or Angie, if I've misspoken about a process in that respect, please do correct me, but that's kind of how we foresee the process unfolding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Janice or Angie, did you want to add something to that? Or is that pretty good?
No, actually, I think Anand summed it up quite well. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, I don't see anybody else's hand up. So what we'll do then is I'll entertain a motion to receive that report from Anita and Sherry. All those in favor? Okay. I don't think we don't have any consent items or staff reports or correspondence or Peterborough report or committee reports or petitions or portfolio updates. So, or any new or unfinished business. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to seek a confirming bylaw in a second and adjournment, but we will reassemble as committee of adjustment, I believe, Madam Chair, at 5:40. Is that the timing on that? Sherry, 5:40, is that our time? Yeah, okay. So we're going to be reassembling at 5:40. So I'll entertain a motion for the confirming bylaw from Donna, seconded by Anita. All those in favor? And adjournment from Jerry, seconded by Anita. All those in favor? Again, thank you, Anand, to you and your team. Thanks to all the staff, and we'll see you back in a little over an hour. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.